Hello all. Today I am going to explain about in AWS Network Load Balancer, and after that, I will give briefly 2 minutes about in Network Load Balancer. After that, we'll start in how to create the Network Load Balancer, how to attach it in target those things. So this Network Load Balancer is like a port based. It will work. So it will work as a TCP, UDP, and TLS. TCP port is a 80 and UDP port is a 53 and TLS port is a 443. So basically is network load balancer also. It will automatically distribute your incoming traffic across that multiple targets and instances like Kubernetes containers and IP addresses, and it will be available in one or more availability zones. So if you see here diagram how it is working, network load balancer. So if you see first is there is a three ways we can do it. One is a VPC endpoint, using the endpoints, and via VPC2 it will work as a TCP port. It's like it will work as a ALP, application load balancer, and it will work as a network load. It's work as like a VPC endpoint too. Again is a UDP port, UDP 53, and it will work as like a 443 TLS. Okay, now is so main difference is in interviews, or if it is take from anything like difference. What is the difference between network load balancer, application load balancer, and gateway load balancer? I have defined here. So in OS layer, there is how it is work. In the application load balancer is a it's a layer 7 security, and network load balancer is the layer 4 security, and gateway load balancer is layer 3 and layer 7 security. So in targets type, how it is work, it will work as like targets are like IP instances and lambda targets which will work. Means like with you, we can use that, IPs is there. So in targets like that also it will work. Let me show you how it is work there. Give me a second. If you see here, when I create the target, it will show here is the instance type. Again is IP address, lambda function, application load balancer, like this. Okay. So if you see here in targets for a network load balancer, IP, instance, ALP, and target types. Okay, if you see in gateway load balancer, works with IP and instance targets. Okay, protocols are using like HTTPS for in application load balancer. In gRPC, we will not use mostly. Mostly it is using for in HTTP and HTTPS, and network load balancer using in TCP. TCP port is 80, and UDP port is 53. TLS port is 443. Will use these protocols. In gateway load balancer, it will support in IP and IP based routings. Okay, so in how it is algorithms will work, it's a round robin will work. For example, I have a application load balancer. I have in two targets, so two EC2 instances. Round robin means first once you receive the request to load balancer, first send it to one EC2 instance. Next request will send it in another EC2 instance. That is called as a round robin. Okay, so what is this flow as network load balancer work as a flow as? When you use the flow as means like a port. So when you use that in default, for example, you are using that in UDP port means it will come continuously, that UDP port only, this continuously millions of requests will come. So that is the reason we are going for a network load balancers. So normal applications we can use in application load balancer. It will be every second, it will be below 100, below 200 request will go for an application load balancer. If you are getting your request in per second is thousands of and millions of requests you are getting, means you have to go in network load balancer. Okay. And gateway load balancer, how it is work? Routing table lookups. Okay. This is one type of algorithm. Based on this, it will work. So now we are going to creating that in network load balancer. So I'm going for in creating the load balancer. I went in a EC2 dashboard in AWS account. So here is the load. I went in a load balancer. You see here is if you come down, there is a option called as a load balancing. I created here as a load balancing. So when I create in create load balancer, so as we discussed, we are going to create a network load balancer. So if you see here diagram, how it is work, is the diagram also explained here. So I'm going to create that network load balancer. So I'm giving my network load balancer name as a network NLB. NLB means network load balancer. Test one I am giving. Okay. Test I'm giving. Okay. Test one is, it will be internet facing. When is your real time, you can, if it is internal facing means you can give internal. If it is internet facing, now we are going for creating the internet facing. That's why I'm going in the internet facing. And IP address type is as usual IPv4. So you have to select your VPC. I already created VPC for testing. I created a SRH VPC, and my VPC has that in two available two subnets I have. So that two subnet availability zones also selected. Available zone 1A and availability zone 1B. So I'm security groups. We need to check the security groups. I don't want to use in default security groups. I have created my own security group. So I am using that own security group. Okay. So if you see here, so there is a listeners and routing. There are the three types are there. As we discussed, right? TCP, UDP, TLS. Okay, if we take that in TCP, it will be port based means 80 is the port. If we take in TCP, UDP, it is the 53 post. It means this is a UDP port in 53. Okay. If it is a TLS means it will be in the 443. And it will be again, if you type in UDP means it's a 53. So we are going to take it in TCP because we don't have any certificate, any route 53 don't have, that's a DNS. That's why now we are going to take it as a 80 port, TCP port. So now I need to create the targets. So before, when it's the targets are there, there is a, you can use the different types, instances, IP addresses, Lambda functions, and application load balancer. So now I am going to use it in instances only. So while going to use the instances, I need to create the two EC2 instances. Okay, let me go and create the two EC2 instances. If you see here is there is no running the EC2 instances. I am going to create the EC2 instances now. Okay, so I am giving my instance name is my network EC2 test one I am giving. So I am selecting my AMI is Amazon machine image I am selecting. Based on your requirement, you can select in your real time how what you want your company requirement. You can select your AMIs. And I am selecting architecture as a 64-bit. This is the default one. We need to select only the default one, 64-bit and 86. Okay, and ARM is that is a different one. So mostly we used to say select in only 66, 86 one, 64-bit. So instance type is now we are using the free type, but based on your requirement in real time, which one you want to have, that you can select it here. For example, you want for an T3 medium, T3 large means 2 CPU, 8 GB memory means you can use this one. So there is the different types are there. So when whatever you want, for example, you want for an M5 series, just type in M5. So M5 series, what are the instance you have, you can see here. So this is I'm doing for testing. I'm selecting only the free tier eligible. And key pair, yesterday as we discussed, right, is I already created one key pair. I'm going to use that one. If you are not created the key pair, you are going and you can use it. Okay. That is the key pair. And network is I need to select. Okay, I'm selecting my custom VPC. So I'm created custom VPS. I'm selected that one. So I'm selecting my subnets are there in that availability zone 1A and 1B. So I'm going to select in availability zone 1A. So I'm enabling that auto IP. I want to check in whether it is IP is connecting or not. I'm going to install something like Apache there. So now is I'm selecting my existing security group. Okay, I don't want to use the default one. I want to use it in my existing one. So I'm going to select that one. So advanced, this is that EBS volumes. I don't want for in that EBS volumes. In real time, what are the EBS volumes you want, you can use it. If you use the GP3, it will be less cost. If you go for in SSD GP2, it will be more cost. IWAPS also, if you use that latest version, it will be less cost. If it's the no, if you use that in IWAPS 1 means it will be more cost. Okay, now I don't want, I am removing this one. Only default one I kept it. So in advanced details, I am going to install my HTTPD and just one small message I am displaying there. So I am copying this one. I pasted here. I am just testing here my network balancer EC2 test one I gave. Okay, so I'm launching my EC2 instances. So it's now is it's still creating. So for his load balancing, we need for 2 EC2 instances. So I'm going to create in another one. So I am giving my name as a my network EC2 test 2 I am giving. So as usual, I'm selecting all the images, all those things. I'm selecting key pair as a SRPPK. My network is changing to default this one custom VPC. And earlier I was selected 1A. So now I'm selecting is availability zone B. So auto assign enable this public IP is enabled. So my security groups, I don't want to create now. So already I created, I am going to use that security group. Okay. In remaining is as usual. So I'm going to add it in again this one. So now I'm changing to my network load balancer EC2 test 2. I'm creating my EC2. So I'm just checking whether it is created properly or not. So that for that I am connecting my EC2 machine. So I'm just checking my HTTP started or not. So it started. So I'm going to check it is whether it is properly coming or not. See, it's working in this test is working in EC2 level. I checked it's working fine. Now I'm going to check in second one. My second instance, this is the second instance. I'm connecting in here. This session manager I'm connecting. This is my second instance. If you see here, I'm just checking my Apache is started or not. So Apache is started. I'm just checking whether it is properly working or not. See, it's working now. So now I'm going to create my targets. I selected as a instances. So I gave same thing. My target name I'm giving. So I'm giving that network load load balancer target. So I'm just give this name. LOAD. Okay. So here is a protocol I'm using that to TCP. Okay, same thing, which is selected in earlier. This one VPC I'm selecting my custom VPC. Remaining is as it is, and I'm giving here is index.html. Okay. Remaining things are same thing. I'm going for next page. I'm registering my targets. I'm selected two EC2 instances, instance 1 and instance 2. And I'm including as a pending below. So I'm creating the target groups now. So target groups are created. You see here target groups, only one target group is there. Okay. So load balancer is not a set. Where we are in between of load balancer because we need to create the targets. Now I am selecting the target. Network load balancer target I am selected. So remaining is the global accelerator $1,000 is not selecting. Okay, and security also it's not selecting. Yes, we know that is it's a support in network load balancer will support in layer 4 security. So if you see here, so here is my VPC. It says coming from internet facing IPv4. Here is my security groups. Here is my availability zones. Here is my listeners and routing table. Okay, targets. Okay. Now I'm going to create my load balancer. So this one will take in its provisioning. It will take a few more minutes to create this load balancer, network load balancer. It will take a few. Now is my load balancer is created. It's active now, the network load balancer. So we'll go and test it now. So, okay, this is my load balancer ARN and this is my UPC. This is subnets. Okay. I'm going to test it in my network load balancer. Okay, let's go and test it. See, if it is connecting to second instance, it's connected. Let's try again. Let's try again. So it's connecting only second instances. So we'll do one thing. We'll delete a first instance and we'll try it. So it means that is the first instance we are keeping is down. Because I don't have much load, that's why it's creating only keeping only the first instance, second instance. But so let me uh, down the second instance. It's verified, so we can down it this first instance. We can down second instance. Sorry for not first instance. So I'm going to terminate this one. Okay. So now setting, okay, see, shutdowning. Now let's test it. See, now it's connecting to instance one. Because I don't have much load. When it's have with a more load, based on that it will go. So this is like a port based, right? As we discussed. That's why it's only is going to one. So now is if it is I down the one instance here, so that one it's why it's going to first instance availability one. Okay, this is about in the network load balancer creation. Thank you all. See you in the next session.